So, pela, desculpe, eu falo português, mas muito pouco. Eu sou
I only speak a
paquistanesa,
little bit of Portuguese. I'm
eu
actually from
moro em
Pakistan.
Cascais,
I live in
por
Cascais.
isso I'm going to speak in English. Um, my Portuguese is, so I'm reading the translation. And we regularly attend the sessions of PINT and take inspiration of books for our book club here, Portuguese literature in English. And our October read is going to be your book. So I was trying to binge read. I often binge read before these sessions, but unfortunately I haven't finished the book yet. But I already have so many questions that I think Gabriella is going to be sighing with relief that I haven't finished it, and I only have like an observation and a question. So I was telling my dance teacher today, who grew up, in the 90s, and some of these songs. Thank you, Gabriela, for sharing that. I've already forwarded it. And we were trying to go through the songs, and he was like, "Wow, it's been a while since I heard this music." And of course, he knew the band. He knew the songs because he's Portuguese, and he was winner of some of dance competitions and hip hop, and so he really interested in hip hop histories. So that was, that's just a little anecdote to tell you that your book is being discussed here, and it's bringing, just reminding people. He's like, "Wow, I haven't heard this in ages," so that bringing that music back. So I thought you might be interested in hearing that a little bit. But I have a quick observation and then a question. The observation is that I was really struck with how well the book is structured, and what a lovely writing voice you have. I mean, I just randomly just opened it up, and here, I've got little things. So on page 70, the rhythm of your writing, it's sort of like, I don't know how to, it just came to me that perhaps it's also musical, because there's this long paragraph on page 70, and then you go, and you have this long sentence, and then you said, "I told him everything blow by blow, our achievements, the internalization of Kuduro, the stages we trodden. He let me speak." So that long and short, I really, I mean, I have notes wherever I find that interesting. I've got like little exclamation points. So that was my little observation, that I'm enjoying reading it. I haven't finished because it's our next month's book, but I tried to binge read. I have, in my defense. The question that I had was that. Well, two, but let's see if I can get to the second. But one was the political one was music. Um, so you had mentioned, let's do the music. So you had talked about how it becomes an identity. Music becomes an identity, and I'm trying to. I just lost it when I picked up I lost the page, but how it then becomes a mode of survival, of your connection with the homeland. I think that was the gist of it. I forget the page now. Um, and I was thinking immediately what came to mind, maybe I wrote it. Um, I think it's page perhaps 38, and about identity, and about that, I don't know if it's an imaginary homeland, but I guess in this particular case it does exist. But what do you consider things like Bhangra music, or even, I don't want to, I'm not a musician, so I'm not going to venture into anything else, only of what I know. Would you consider Bhangra to be similar to that in terms of a connection to identity?
Absolutely. I there is even now. I think like um, there is a South Asian dance scene that is quite impactful, and of course, Buraka will not be the same without the existence of MIA from Sri Lanka. She was absolutely pivotal for not only as a collaborator, we did some work together, but her records and the way she was pushing her music, because for people like us living in the periphery, we look for those references. We look for people that are not necessarily on the centers. and how they do it, how they approach art, and how they became so stubborn with their own language, musical language or creative language. So yeah, we had the privilege to tour in India. We didn't went to Pakistan, unfortunately. We would love to go, but that part of the world, from the cinema, from the the colors, the art, it's very inspiring for all of us, and yeah, and currently Branco, which is my band and label partner, I cannot really tell you which artist, but he was the other day just showing me what's happening now with Southeast Asian music scene.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of projects coming out that are quite refreshing. Um,
Yeah, the music
I
scene in Pakistan is through the roof. I mean, it's
Yeah,
crazy, the kind of creativity in music in Pakistan.
yeah.
And the African connections with Liari in Karachi, because it was the coast of Balochistan, and so you have these Balochis, but they're Africans from because it used to be Oman was connected to Balochistan, and so there's this whole area in well, we don't have slums like Bombay, but like these settlements and out in the hinterland of Karachi called Liari, where you have some of the best cutting edge street music happening, and a lot of it is the survival and really talking, using the rap, but then using traditional our own instruments and beats, as
Mhm.
well as the international rap style, and their own Baluchi, because that Baluchi is really, from East Africa, those beats, and it's this very unique sound. And they're talking about growing up in these shanty towns and the injustices and the general system. And again, when you talk about that, you talk about this overwhelming need for people to migrate, which, of course, as an immigrant myself, um, that really, I could really identify with that knot in your stomach when you approach the customs. I've become used to. I've lived in 12 countries around cities around the world, and I have to say though that there are places that I go to, UK and North America, where I still get that knot in my stomach, even though I've done nothing wrong. And I'm like, I look guilty because I'm so stressed out. So, so I think the first question was about music, and if you think of other, so you said yes, and my other question was you mentioned about politics, that you were taught not to discuss politics, and your generation grew up not talking about politics, and I wondered if because part of it is a novel, part of it is semi-autobiographical, and yet there are these very subtle, well, some of them are just, you talk about the history and the politics and what happened, of course. But then there are these political statements that you make without making a statement. And it's done very subtly. And I'm wondering if was that on purpose, not to alienate a certain reader, or was that, as you had mentioned, again, I don't, I noted the page somewhere, or was it because of this thing about being told not to discuss politics?
Uh, I think every Angolan writer only writes about politics, to be absolutely honest with you. And is the and again and being a writer is yeah is difficult, but not I would not say difficult in the sense that we cannot speak. Of course we do, but usually comes with consequences. And of course, understanding that our country is quite young. We are independence. We will celebrate 50 years of independence this year in November. Um, so democracy and free speech, all of these are new concepts in Angola. Yeah? And we're still negotiating even with the idea of Angolanidad, what it means to be Angolan. We cannot forget those are invented words, like these are invented concepts. Angola was not Angola as we know today since centuries and centuries ago. Uh, yeah, we have it's chronological dated, like we can see when that concept was created and why it was created. So we inherited that and we're trying to make sense out of that. We're trying to build a nation on top of those concepts. Um, and that comes with challenges, like because not only, the world doesn't stop for us to figure out how we're gonna deal with one another. The world's still evolving. Like there are wars almost all around the globe, and the economy is pretty much the same. The money is just one, and we all interdependent from one another. And Africa is also coming to terms with their own identity as a continent, because again, also was invented, it was not, didn't existed for centuries and centuries of time, at least as we see it, those borders and how those things are kind of established. Um, so writers are the one that somehow highlight that, and some of our words are not necessarily well received depending on the circumstances, depending on the time. Right now, we're going through our, third president in our history. And this president is trying to perpetuate himself in power using the disguise of democracy. Yeah, it's we can stay here all day. So I would just say, I the way I put politics in my writing and in this novel, it's not only, I would say, I could be, and I'm more explicit in other formats of my writing, but in this novel per se, I also wanted to give this innocence and giving this I didn't want to be sarcastic. I didn't want to be, what can I say? Um, I wanted to be kind to my generation, because a lot of us are very politically aware, and there's also a group of us that are absolutely just living their lives and don't want to, and nothing to deal with that. But we're all part of this. We're all Angolans, and even like being politically engaged or not engaged still makes part of this negotiation that we are having with our society. So I want this book to have that lightness, but at the same time addressing some of the aspects of our, let's say, recent history. And for example, going back to your previous, I don't know if it was a question, but definitely your observation um, about this. I forget what the words that you use, but I wanted to highlight something that is, I believe, on the second part of the book, maybe on the first. Sorry, it's like I didn't read it for a while, so maybe I should have read it for today. But there is this image of going to a kizomba club, uh, and even today you can see that, you can experience that in basically everywhere where you find Angolan diaspora or even African diaspora. So most of these people, especially in the 90s when I arrived, uh, we were way more invisible. Now things are slightly different, because we are now on the third, fourth generation of African immigrants in Europe or in Portugal. But back then, people were doing the worst jobs that the society could provide. But when it came Friday, you would see those people reclaiming their identity. And identity is not necessarily on this pamphlet propaganda thing that people claim it, but in the sense of self. Like for example, I did many of odd jobs before I became a writer. And most of the time, when you are on those places, we don't even have a name. Like we are called, like whatever function you are doing at the time. So, but when it comes Friday, you reclaim your name back. Yeah, you reclaim your sense of self again. And Kizomba per se, I don't know if that's the dance that you are learning with your teacher, but Kizomba is
One of
something that,
them.
yeah,
One of
Kizomba is something that you dance together. You embrace, and that image of people going through their week, absolutely, with their heads down and trying to survive the week. But came Friday, they went to the hairdresser, they pick up their best weekend garments and went to a place where not only they could reconnect with the sense of self, but they could also reconnect with the community, dancing, embracing each other. It's such a it's for me it's almost impossible to not write about that because it's such a beautiful thing, to experience and to witness. I had to put it on a novel.